Okay, so we have some time, an hour and a half together this evening, continuing to go through the questions that have been sent in. So I hope this is of interest to all, or many, or some, or maybe just to me. So the first is about a question about trekchö. Can it be done as a guided meditation? Not really, because the function of trekchö is to separate the knowing aspect of the mind from its fusion with whatever is arising. So it focuses on disidentification. And guided meditations usually have to do with identification, like visualizing yourself as Tara or Padmasambhava. The second part of this question is it a suitable practice or arena for beginners? So the basic principle is always this: you are up a tree, you are sitting on a branch, you want to cut off some of the branch. It's helpful if you are close to the trunk when you saw the branch, because if you saw it on the wrong side, you will fall along with the branch. So this relates to the first point of Garabdorji. You have to awaken to, or be open to, or have some flavor or taste of your mind as it is, free of fused identification with thoughts. Like in England, we often have clouds, but we can know that the big blue sky is there even when the clouds are present. When we start to practice, all the clouds of our obscurations and karmic habits and so on are not going to dissolve. They don't vanish all at once, because we are still actively identifying with them. But as long as we have some sense of the open sky, then the clouds are not so oppressive. So once you have some sense of the difference between the mind as it is, the mind as pure awareness, and the mind as it appears to us, the mind as the site of thoughts, feelings, memories, then you can practice. This is why we have very often looked at the 5 basic questions about whether the mind has shape or color, whether it has a dimension, big or small, whether we can find it located someplace, whether it seems to come from somewhere and to go to somewhere. These questions are very helpful for bringing us close to actually seeing how it is rather than imagining. So it's not that you have to do some formal preliminary practice. You simply have to be willing to get to know how you are. So the second question is, it seems there are different aspects to attraction and aversion. Direct, energetic, and precognitive reaction in the second and third skandhas, and the downstream post-cognitive reaction in the fifth skandha. So this second skandha is the feeling tone, or the initial evaluatory sense that something is pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. So this does not involve a great deal of conceptual interpretation. You maybe at night, you put your hand, if you're camping, you put your hand outside the tent and it goes into some wet cow shit. Ugh! So the sensation and the feeling tone arise before you even know what it is. You just know, horrible. And of course, a lot of our experience of the world is direct and energetic in this way. So you might be out walking in the street and you see someone wearing, I don't know, a yellow winter coat. And as they come closer, the color yellow, it just looks more and more gorgeous. The perception is just opening to what is there. It's not having any thoughts about it, it just thinks, oh, wonderful. So there are certain qualities of appearance in the world where we feel immediately drawn towards them. So If you're in a cold country at this time of the year, if you go walking on the beach, you probably don't want to jump in and go swimming. But 6 months from now, you'll be very happy to go in the water. The water has the same constituent, the same kind of movement of the waves, but you are less open at this season than in the summer. So in that level, we get used to immediate kind of reactions. There is still a stimulus and a reactor. I am reacting in this way. I don't know why. When you see the yellow coat and you think, oh, wonderful. You don't know why, but it is wonderful. The response is not resting on some conceptual construction. But then in terms of the five skandhas, remember, begins form and shape, or shape and color. Then this positive, neutral, and negative feeling. In English, we traditionally translate it as feeling, but it's more like a sensory, immediate response. Then we have a perception, which is how we take hold of something. A perception is already moving into selection, because when we look out, if we're going for a walk, there will be many things which reveal themselves through our eyes, but they don't really register with us. So in the Buddhist system, we say that each of the five senses has its own consciousness. And then we have the sixth consciousness, which is mental consciousness, which is the organizer and selector of what is occurring. So perception is when mental consciousness and the consciousness of the sense organ is starting to collaborate. So some things are not important to us. They are there in the visual field. Light is coming off all these phenomena in through our eyes, but the beginning work of our mental consciousness is highlighting some as important, others as not important. So some things become figural and others, most things, stay in the background. So if you can still remember life before COVID, if you're going on a busy city street, many people are walking towards you, they hardly register. Afterwards, you can't remember who it was that was passing by. But then suddenly there's somebody, and oh, it's you. And you feel a recognition of the person. They are suddenly standing out and shining as very important. They're important for you, not for the other people. They don't know them. As we have looked many times, we imagine that the importance of the person lies in the person. But if that was true, then the whole street would be shouting and jumping up and down as if it was a movie star who was there. But only you are jumping up and down because it's your friend. So in that way, we see that the work of organizing the perceptual field is directed by our habit formations, our tendencies, our knowledge, and so on. Then the fourth skandha is further mobilization towards how one will either think or behave towards what is occurring. So we're formulating something. So you see your friend, she's smiling. But as you get close, she says, oh, you still recognize me. I've left you 3 messages and you didn't reply. So now you feel a bit guilty. Oh God, I'm so sorry. So this is the formation. Now you're being positioned in a particular way in relation to the person. And this is what's always happening in life. We have history with those around us, there's places where we live and so on. And so the initial freshness of the moment of contact is easily covered over with these backstories. And then the fifth of the skandhas, this traditional Theravadan way of thinking about people, is in terms of consciousness, which here means mental consciousness, our capacity to come to a conscious, clear understanding of what the situation is. That is to say, we now know something. the potential of the situation has crystallized into a particular formation at this moment, not eternal. So, in this way, the consciousness is coming after the lived moment of contact. The more you think about something, and especially you then talk about it, the further you get away from the initial impression. Instead of the vibrant first impression shimmering through and touching us, we fill the potential shape of the moment with our thoughts, memories, plans, and so on. So in the first moment, I see, oh, it's you. The second moment is, oh, it's you for me. I know who you are. This is who you are for me. So although now we're talking together, I'm talking mediated through my image of who you are. So I'm imagining you, and every new thing you tell me about what you've been doing is fed into my imaginal production. So this links back to the previous question about trekchö. It is it is exactly because we we are so at home in imagining ourselves and the world and everyone in it that we have to cut ourselves free from this imaginal flow of interpretation, because the compounded world, the world of constructs, has these two aspects. Within the realm of imagining and conceptual elaboration, the more skill I have in manipulating these signs, the more powerful and clear and intelligent I appear to be. Within that frame, the use of concepts is illuminating. But our own mind itself, our awareness, is not something that can be seen. It's something which reveals itself in the depth and silence and simplicity of our non-intoxication with whatever is arising. So you can see why it's so necessary to cut ourselves off from this strong urge to merge into the false illumination of concepts. Thoughts come and go. They are like little moments of light, illuminating this, illuminating that. If we want to keep the light on, we have to have more and more and more thoughts. But as the texts reassure us, there is also an intrinsic light of the mind, the simple clarity of the first moment, which is, oh, this, it's the clarity which doesn't need any concept. It is pre-interpretive. It doesn't in itself need interpretation. But when we, wrapped in our ego identification, encounter it, we feel it needs interpretation. For example, I like soy sauce. I always have soy sauce on the table when eating. So I become very familiar with the taste of soy sauce. And so if I start to eat something and there is no taste of soy sauce, then, oh, something is wrong. Aha, add the soy sauce. Now, now this is the true natural taste of the food. This is how food should taste. For me, this is a very pleasant delusion. I know the more soy sauce I add, the more the distance I get from the natural flavor of the food. But by now, my own natural is soy sauce. So it's the same with the mind. We have been adding this unnecessary ego ingredient for a long time. And how it feels to me and my opinion about it and whether I think it's good or bad, this is the tasty bit of the dish. So that is like a light that's showing me, oh, life is good. This is how life is. But it's the light of darkness. It's a deluding light which keeps me in the dark, because then I don't see how my mind actually is. Okay, so the next question. Could the practice of not trying to understand and to be with it lead to passivity a passivity that prevents us contributing to and improving the world's situation. The world situation is clearly very complicated. We want to help. We want to do something, but what shall we do? Very often, when we think about an issue like refugee crisis or the fact many countries don't get injections for against the virus and so on, I think something must be done. What? The government in many countries is corrupt. If you give the virus to the government, the first thing is the president and his 5 wives and 24 children all get the injection. Who are we helping? We have to allow the complexity of the world and also have an accurate perception of our energy, our potential, but how constrained it is by the cultural factors around us. So we end up thinking we have to work with circumstances. We can't change the terrible governments that exist in so many countries. And of course, if I say these governments are terrible, that's because they seem terrible to me. For the children of the president living in a palace with a swimming pool and so many wonderful things is not terrible government at all. The guards who stand around the palace with their guns, for them it's not terrible. They get food, they get girls, and they get the chance to shoot people. So for them, it's a good situation. So this goes back to what we looked at with the 5 skandhas. The particular patternings of our own mental functioning lead us to believe that we have an accurate perception when in fact we have a habitual interpretation. So first of all, we need to make sure that we can see things clearly. If we see everything is empty, devoid of inherent existence, this doesn't stop us also seeing this is terrible. Wisdom illustrates there is nothing real there. This is patterns of illusion. But compassion allows us to see that these people believe this is their one life. What is happening is horrible and terrible, and they are in great suffering. And so we have a response. First, we need the emptiness, then the compassion. If we start with the compassion, everything in the world seems just shit, just terrible. Because it seems real, we start to feel anger. We see in many countries people go out on the street protesting. Generally speaking, these protests don't do much good. Many people seem to feel I have to protest because it's intolerable to be passive. But there are different flavors of passive. There's not doing anything out of fear. There's not doing anything because one can't work out what to do. And there's not doing anything because the time is not right for me in my particular situation to do something. We are not abandoning those who are directly suffering and hold them in mind. You can give money and support to organizations like Amnesty International, which work with prisoners. But going out on the street in order to let the police hit you on the head with a heavy truncheon is just a kind of mock heroics. Okay, so they have a saying in Tibetan, Tap Ninji Chempo Sherap Tombani, means the method is great compassion and wisdom is emptiness. The word tap, method, is sometimes translated as skillful means. In order to be skillful, the first thing to see is that this is like a dream. Because if we take it seriously, this is terrible. I don't like this. I have to do something. No, what have I just said? In my opinion, this is terrible. In my feeling, I don't like it. In my mobilization, I have to do something. These 3 aspects are about me. So starting from me is not the best way to help you. So again and again, we have to sit and observe how we come into existing as I, me, myself. So firstly, we see I am not a thing. And we see I am a dynamic process with many influences. Thirdly, we see nothing Permanent is established through the movement of these processes. None of these transient arisings is who I truly am. Then we have the basis for cutting free from fusional identification. We're not throwing everything away. We're staying very precisely attentive to what is there, and we see it. Patterns of emptiness, patterns of light. The more we see light, the lighter we become. Less heavy inside, less solid. So we become more fluid, more flexible, more able to respond according to the situation. So in this way, we are not passive, but we are not, whatever we say, neurotically overactive. The history of our time is endless wars caused by people invading other people's countries to sort things out. There were quite a few soldiers in Syria in the early stages of the war there. Mr. Trump kept repeating he wanted the soldiers out. He came out. He brought the soldiers out, which created a little vacuum. And in his great generosity and humanitarian spirit, President Putin sent in many Russian soldiers. Between a democratic madman and a dictatorial madman, maybe not so much difference. This is our world. As in the Bible, when Jesus found the villagers ready to stone a woman to death because she had been caught having sex with someone not her partner, her husband, he says, let the one who is without sin throw the first stone. So this is very good advice. When we sit to meditate and we see that our mind is not so clear, then perhaps we are not in any position to sort out the world. Okay. Then the next question is, can rigpa, awareness, be realized and stabilized with simple resting in awareness? Without, yes, by resting in awareness and watching events self-liberate, like writing on water. And is this enough, or do you have to do full shamatha and generation and completion deity yoga practice? Well, these are so many questions of language. Is it enough? Who can say? It depends. Basic teaching of the Buddha is dependent origination. Will this be enough? You have to try. So you can start at the beginning and do a lot of preliminary practice and then develop gradually, or you can start directly with sitting in open awareness. Because we never know when we are going to die, it's generally advisable to go to the heart of the matter first. You have a mind. Perhaps you don't know how your mind is. Who is hiding this from you? Tell them to stop. Don't do that. But when you tell yourself, don't do it, you keep doing it because you are addicted to distraction. So, depending on how you are, you might think, oh, I'm distracted because my mind is full of very strong bad thoughts. So I have to purify it. Therefore, I must do 100,000 long mantra of Vajrasattva. In that moment, you are in a wonderful situation because you are both the patient and the doctor. I am sick and I know what medicine I need. So you sick man, apply the medicine. So I have a very big syringe and I have to stick it in my arm, but it looks a little bit scary. I'm the patient. I don't want that. Don't worry, I'm the doctor. You need this. No. I am the patient. I don't want that. So quite a lot of meditation practice happens in this way. There is an inner resistance, an ambivalence. And why not? Because there are many habitual movements of swirling energy arising in the mind. First, I have to stabilize the movement and then I can see. It sounds good. Unfortunately, the Buddha said everything is impermanent. Everything is moving. The moving won't stop. So how am I going to stabilize my mind? Don't get involved. How will I not get involved? Don't do anything. Mommy, there's boys in school and they smoke cigarettes. You are a good boy. You don't need to smoke cigarettes. But they are smoking cigarettes. Don't talk with them. Don't go where they are. Play with the other children. But I like these boys. Oh, we are like this. Our bad thoughts are more exciting than our good thoughts. The problem is duality, subject, object, and the verb, the communication between the two. This is why simply relaxing, feeling the pull to engagement, relaxing again, is our continuous practice. We start with the small. If somebody is used to smoking cigarettes, if they cannot have a cigarette for an hour, that's good. Their intention is not to smoke. So now, some days later, they're able to be 2 hours without smoking. They are making progress. But look, they're still smoking cigarettes. Every 2 hours, they're smoking a cigarette. He's a smoker. But before, he was smoking every hour. But he's still a smoker. So it's like this. You will be very close to your habit formations for some time. Shouldn't I substitute something for the cigarette? Okay, so what will you substitute for your thought? A mantra. So I will do mantras all the time. Now I'm not disturbed by thoughts, but I don't go to work. My partner's getting fed up with me. The kids, they say, why don't you play football anymore? Oh, I'm holy man. You should be proud of your holy papa. But how can you be proud of a boring papa? To ordinary people, I look boring, but I am a holy man. Because mantra and ordinary life don't go together very well. It is a substitute if you are using it as a way of not thinking. The issue is not whether there are thoughts in the mind or not, but whether you are carried this way and that by involvement with them. How not to be carried away? Relax. Many, many, many levels of relaxation. Agitation is a particular kind of vibration. When I used to work in the hospital and I would go down to the waiting room to collect a patient for therapy, there were often several people in the room and some were very, very anxious. As soon as I would open the door and go into the room, you could just feel the air is almost vibrating from this nervous tension. It is impactful. So this is the same for us. We have many, many vibrations in ourselves. Regrets about the past, plans for the future, disappointment with ourselves and with other people. When something arises in the mind, and it seems to be an illumination of myself. So some image of an event might suddenly arise in your mind. Maybe it was a very embarrassing or shameful moment. You immediately feel a kind of contraction in your body. Oh no. So feel this, the muscles contract on the basis of a thought. And of course, it's a two-way street. The contraction of the muscles develop particular patterns of thoughts. So we need to release the sense that the thought is my thought. Who is the owner of the thought? I am. So let me see your identity card. Oh, Mr. Ego. We have some records about you at the head office. We know you. But if your identity card says Mr. Awareness, there's no picture on your identity card. No address. Where do you stay? Where did you come from? And where are you going? No one coming nowhere? What doing what? Oh, go away. Like that. If you stay in awareness, nothing can catch you. But if you rest in your habitual ego formation, your notion that this is how I am, this is who I am, then this very positioning will attract more and more signifiers around it, and you keep building up more and more possibilities of self-identification. People talk about doing Dharma. So in Tibetan, the word for Dharma is chö, and we have the chöku, the Dharmakaya. The Dharmakaya is the truth of Dharma, and it's not doing anything. Dharmakaya is not a result of any process. It is intrinsic. So when you try to create a better form of yourself, you are inside the paradigm of duality. So that is the logic of our way of doing practice. However, there are many, many Dharma paths, and you are, of course, welcome to do whatever takes your fancy. What should I do? What do you need to do? I don't know what I need to do. So can you tell me what I should do? Well, what you should do is find out what you need to do. Well, that's not very helpful because I don't know what to do. Why would you imagine I know you better than you? You have all the evidence. You just don't look at it. So we sit and our mind reveals itself to us. The one who wants to be active is the ego. This is a very complicated question. Why does sentience or awareness or the subject seem to split into separate persons? Why? Yeah. Why does sentience means like feeling? Yeah, sentient or awareness or the subject, three ways of describing the same thing, seem to split into separate persons, the illusory sentient beings, while the objective world seems to be single. There are no separate sentient beings, but neither is there just one mind. Some people are listening to what we're doing just now, and they all have their own minds, their own responses and interpretations. The awareness is open and empty, but because it has no color or shape or any identificatory signs, you can't compare it with anything else. Awareness is not within relative truth. So everything you know can be compared. Tomatoes, shoes, everything can be compared in the world of things. The world is not singular. The world is made up of many different things, each of which is empty of inherent existence. So the diversity of the world, shapes, colors, temperatures, sounds, and so on, and the diversity of persons, the different shapes of their bodies, and so on, and the diversity of each person in terms of our moods, our feelings, our arising and passing memories, and so on. This diversity is a showing like a rainbow in the sky. It is the appearance of the illusion which can be grasped at as if it were entities. So we have steam and water and ice. You can't grasp steam. You can grasp water, but it runs through your fingers. You can grasp a piece of ice. If you drop the ice on the stone floor, it will fragment. If you pour the water on the floor, it will spread out, but it doesn't fragment. And the steam is already dispersed. We are used to grasping at ice. Ice is not fundamentally different from water. The flow of water is hidden when the water is in the form of ice. The ice is not made of anything other than the water, but when you look at a big block of ice, it's not flowing. The fluidity is hidden inside the formation. So in the same way, when we look around the world through our ice glasses, we freeze the world into these very strong entities, like the Snow Queen. It's a very terrifying figure. When we relax our grasping, we find everything's flowing. If I say to someone, I hate you, you're just a total shit. I know who you are. I know what you are. This is ice. It's full of anger, so it's a kind of hot ice, but it's very fixed. And I'm convinced that I have the truth of that person. So we know this is the cause of a lot of killing and murder and torture in the world. But of course, even the person we think of as terrible has people who love them. General Pinochet was liked by many people. Why? Because their karmic constitution was able to resonate in, for them, positive way with this man. What we call relative truth is the world of the creation of fictions, of we imagine something and then fall into our own imagination. So different sentient beings have different patternings of their imagination. This is why we have civil wars. I am like this, you are like that. I have to kill you before you kill me. Again and again, in every country, we see these factors arising. Whether it was apartheid in South Africa or the British behavior in the colonies, everywhere there is a division of my group and your group. So this is the functioning of ignorance, that I imagine there is inherent existence, true existence, real existence in this thing that I have identified. And because you are like this, I have to be this way. You are making me be like this. I'm not usually like this. It's only when I meet you that I am like this. It's not unusual for people to feel this very powerfully. And the reaction needn't just be aversion, it could also be desire. Sensations, thoughts, feelings, memories, bicycles, apples, chocolate, everything is without inherent existence. When we compare and contrast, when we organize things in families of similarity and dissimilarity, we are deluding ourselves. This is the dark light of the ego, the light which illuminates and obscures simultaneously. Okay, so we have time for one other question. What is dakini energy in relation to in connection with the unborn ground of luminous experience? The word dakini can cover many different kinds of beings. Can be a kind of village goddesses which are quite dangerous, to wisdom forms which are an aspect of enlightened mind. So when this term was taken into the Tibetan language, they call this kandroma, means the female form that moves in the sky. Spirits move in the sky. So there's a function of communication and connectivity. One of the functions of dakinis is to reward and punish practitioners. So some dakini forms operate as guardians of the Dharma, and they can appear like the ancient furies of Greek belief, implacable and terrifying. But more particularly in relation to the question, the unborn ground of luminous experience is the stillness of awareness, like the mirror. And in the mirror, many different reflections are arising. So the dakini is the quality of the reflection. It means whatever is seen, whatever is tasted, touched, thought, remembered. So in the famous 7-line prayer to Padmasambhava, we say that Padmasambhava is surrounded by dakinis moving in the air. Padmasambhava is sitting. He's not moving, but the dakinis are moving, and they're moving in space. They are the movements of space which does not move. So in the commentary by Mipam Rinpoche on the 7-line prayer, He says, Padmasambhava is your own mind. It's arising at the conjunction of nirvana and samsara. Awareness illuminates what is occurring. What is occurring is thoughts, memories, feelings, and these are the dakinis. So if we remember there is no inherent existence in anything, there are no dakinis. Dakinis are a way of talking about energy. You can't catch the wind. So the dakini is always elusive, just as you can't catch your thought. As soon as you're aware that you're thinking something, it's already vanishing. But if you stay present, then it is as if the thought reveals itself. So if you try to grasp, to apprehend, to take hold of the world, you end up with confusion, because what you get is the concept of what announced itself. So if you get interested in Tibetan art, you can see many paintings of dakinis. Then you know how they look. According to some people, they had their vision. So that is the dakini according to that person's vision. Is that what the dakini really looks like? No, because the dakini doesn't really look like anything. If you go in Bengal, there is a big worship of Kali, the goddess of Kali. So Calcutta is named after Kali, Kalikut. The, if in many tea shops you see these little poster pictures of Kali, and she has a big hair, big thick black hair going down her back. And this image of Kali came from the 19th century, because an artist had gone from Calcutta out into the fields to visit someone in his family who was a farmer. And he came to a place where a girl had been bathing in the river. She had washed her hair. And she was shaking it all out. Wow. Wow. So he went back to Calcutta and he made a painting of Kali with her hair. So what does Kali look like? That's the painting of Kali. This is a goddess. Born as a girl and became a goddess in the tea shop. So these are images. If you sit and you observe the movement of your mind, if you grasp at it, and then you grasp at what you grasped, oh, I can't do any practice today. My mind's so heavy and stupid. I hate it when I'm like this. Where is the dakini? Dakini was the original dancing thought. Some dakinis are very dark and dangerous. They have this sharp butcher's knife and a skull of blood. You have thoughts that kill you, which destroy your belief in your own potential. But this thought, which makes you feel suicidal, if you look, if you see, is moving and gone. I hate myself. I don't want to live any longer. This is the dance of the dakini. The dakini is dancing. She's not dancing like a soldier. So don't take her too seriously. I want to kill myself. It's already gone. I hate myself. Oh, gone. Stay with the movement of the mind, and everything is the mandala of the guru, where all thoughts, feelings, sensations are moving. So this is why they say the dakini rewards and punishes. If you see the dakini as the movement of your mind, you are rewarded by freedom from attachment. But if you grasp at the content of your mind, if you believe that your thoughts tell you the real truth about how life is, this solidification of the thought is an insult to the dakini. She is dancing. She is dancing water, trickling and flowing down the mountain. And you are freezing her into ice. So she's going to give you some trouble. Attachment is painful. So stay bright and light and open. At this time, there are many problems with diseases, with wars, with economic difficulties. Do what you can with a kind heart, but don't be serious. When it becomes serious, it becomes real. Nothing is real. Everything is illusion. This is not to insult the suffering of beings. In fact, it's to open the door of the ending of the suffering of beings. There is suffering, and suffering has an origin. Suffering can come to an end, and there is a path to the ending of suffering. The path to the ending of suffering is to learn about emptiness. Then all the dakinis will be dancing and happy and smile at you. Okay, so we come to the end for today. Thank you to our translators. Okay, and Pedro will prepare the Zoom recordings so you can listen to them later or invite any friends who might be interested to listen. And we have some further meetings arranged in April and May now. So please look at the website for details. Okay, so bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Grazie.
Thank you, James.
Thanks, James.
Obrigado, James.
Milton.
Ciao, obrigado.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Obrigado.
Obrigada, Jenny.